Chapter 827, Plenty of People Coming and Going. Despite getting in bed, Klein didn't manage to sleep until daybreak. This was because he believed that, with most people stirred awake from the commotion underground, him sleeping too soundly without noticing anything would make him suspicious. Indeed, just as he got out of bed, walked to the balcony, and drew the curtains to pretend to search for the source of the commotion, Walter came knocking at his door. Two servants with double-barreled hunting rifles were assigned to protect their employer to prevent any accidents from happening. Before long, the police arrived. Based on the descriptions of the residents in the area, they identified the sewers as the target. As for what they discovered or whether they sought backup from the Nighthawks, the ordinary citizen, Mr. Dwayne Dance, had no idea. After confirming that there wouldn't be any more accidents, he sent his butler and servants away and quickly got some sleep. By the time he woke up again, Birkeland Street had been restored to normal. Pedestrians were on the streets, and the carriages were coming and going. The Intis parasol trees that lined the side of the street continued making the area seem tranquil. Are the results of the investigation out? Klein looked at himself in the mirror as he asked Richardson, who was helping him smooth his clothes. Richardson had already inquired about the matter and was waiting for his employer to ask. He immediately replied, "Apparently some gang members were trading firearms in the nearby sewers and accidentally triggered an explosion." What a reasonable explanation. Klein didn't probe deeper, nor did he consider where the demigod of the Marauder pathway who stole away his thoughts went to or if the Nighthawks found him. Firstly, this was because he believed that the demigod's action of igniting the explosives would definitely implicate him in a serious manner. If the demigod had the ability or suitable environment to do so, he would have long parasitized Hazel without going through the convoluted and troublesome hassle. This also meant that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, or even 2 to 3 months, Klein didn't need to worry about the demigod. Secondly, if he continued pursuing the matter and pushed the demigod into a corner, Klein had no doubts that he would be harmed as a result. Once the demigod lost all inhibitions and began affecting the surroundings on a large scale, then, even if he didn't expose himself, he would suffer the demigod's attack, as well as implicate the innocent residents along the street. Apart from the first two reasons, Klein was apprehensive over the matter. If anomalies kept happening in the originally normal Birkeland Street, it was bound to attract a deeper level of suspicion from the official Beyonders. And all of this happened after Dwayne Dance moved in. Even if Klein's body was covered in mouths, there was no way he could explain himself. When the time came, he would have to give up on his plans and reconsider new ones. "I shouldn't head into the sewers for the time being. There's probably a trap laid by the official Beyonders. There's one thing to do. Take note of Hazel without leaving any clues. I'll observe to see if there are any abnormalities about her, and once I discover any dangerous signs, I'll immediately turn into Hero Bandit and put up advertisements at St. Samuel Cathedral." Klein went downstairs to have breakfast with a composed look. After doing so, he returned to his master bedroom and got Richardson to wait by the door. As for himself, he took out the almost torn paper crane from his wallet. He planned on using it one last time and inform Snake of fate, will Ossipton of the choices that Admiral of Stars was offering him, and if he was agreeable or not. Typically, he could complete such matters by visiting his parents. However, without Dr. Aaron's invitation, and him lacking a sufficient reason to pay a visit, that wasn't the best choice, as it easily made others question his motives. He obviously couldn't tell Dr. Aaron that he wasn't there for him, but for the fetus in his wife's womb. After carefully unfolding the paper crane, Klein glanced at the pencil marks left on it. His intuition told him that, as long as he used an eraser, the paper would definitely tear. However, this didn't stump him. He got a black fountain pen and directly wrote on it, "The other party has made their offer." The black ink was a lot more obvious than the pencil marks. Therefore, although the text overlapped, it didn't affect anyone from recognizing the words written on it. There are always more solutions than problems. Klein nodded in satisfaction as he folded the unfolded piece of paper according to its crease marks. This time, he suspected that unfolding it again would result in it tearing. In the Berg household, in the City of Silver. Ever since the tarot gathering ended, Derek was like a petrified statue who sat by his bed, motionless. After an unknown period of time, he was awakened by the noise on the streets outside. However, the feeling that he was still in a nightmare continued enveloping him. It made his footsteps towards the window appear especially heavy. God might already be dead. God might not return again. Such thoughts kept resounding inside Derek's mind, as he felt an irresistible sense of despair and pain. Back when he had to kill his parents with his own hands, he had already suspected if God would return or show his blessings to his forsaken people of the dark. He later thought of relying on Mr. Fool, allowing himself to become the true son and help the people of the City of Silver to escape their cursed fates. However, having been educated from a young age and the environment constantly affecting him, he still looked forward to the return of the Creator. He held expectations that sacrifices and the repentance of the City of Silver would earn them a response. And now, all his hopes had been dashed. The tiny sliver of hope that was left had now been engulfed by the darkness. The City of Silver will continue in this state until it disappears into the darkness. There will be no one remembering that we once existed and struggled. Derek cast his gaze out the window and saw many of his neighbors gathered together. They were praying and seeking forgiveness from the Lord that created everything. This wasn't a ritual organized by the 6-member council, but a tradition that took form in the City of Silver after 2,000 to 3,000 years. They would pray for almost anything: good developments, unstable emotions, an injury in the family, and the birth of new life. Lightning streaked across the sky and illuminated the streets. Derek stood motionless in the darkness of his room, staring outside in a daze. Unknowingly, he clenched his fists. By the time his neighbors dispersed, he finally retracted his gaze, his expressions somewhat warped. He reached out to touch Thunder God's roar as his gaze gradually focused. He planned on following Mr. Hanged Man's advice to befriend others to help him. Soon, he felt a little stumped because he had no idea how to make friends. Nor did he know how to warmly greet others or find a topic of conversation. This was in violation of his own character. After some thought, Derek decided to head to the training field and use combat to re-establish ties with people he was familiar with in the past. That was a gathering ground for the residents of the City of Silver, where he often met people he found familiar. It was late at night once again. Klein once again saw the pitch-black steeple and desolate plains in his dream as he had desired. Passing through one obstacle after another, he arrived at the region with the scattered tarot cards. A black pram was already waiting there. Will Ossipton, who was wrapped in silver silk, asked with a bright voice, "What are the choices?" "You are being very proactive this time. What happened to your reservation as a sequence one? However, kids are like that. It's good that you maintain such a state of mind." Klein silently chuckled as he said, "2 choices. Choose either one. 1, it's to take one look at the Wheel of Fortune card. 2, it's the method to regain a certain amount of strength during your weak stages." Will Ossipton fell silent for a second and chuckled. "So it's Bernadette on the other side. My intuition was right after all. I'll be able to obtain something good this time." Following that, he asked, "Which choice do you think I'll choose?" Klein's subconscious idea was, "I have a chance of posing a question once." Then he said with a self-deprecating laugh, "2. Will Ossipton tasked and said, "Do I look like a mythical creature that doesn't have such methods? I've already restarted so many times. I definitely have the right state of mind to make preparations." "Reasonable." Klein nodded and said, "You wish to take a look at the Wheel of Fortune card, or do you want them to switch the choices?" Will Ossipton sucked at his thumb and said, "I choose 2. Klein's expression froze. Will Ossipton smiled and said, "Knowing one more method means one more trump card. Isn't that the right thing to do?" "Yes, whatever you say is right." Klein replied in exasperation, "All right, when can you complete the transaction?" Will Ossipton waved his short arms and said, "Of course it's when I'm born and have the placenta blood. This will probably be in early July, but it might be brought forward." Having said that, he relaxed his limbs as he chuckled. "I wouldn't mind it either if they wished to hand me the method ahead of time." They, Klein subconsciously asked, unsure how the snake of Mercury knew that it was they and not her, Queen Mystic Bernadette. Will Ossipton sucked at his thumb and said indiscernibly, Bernadette has already passed that stage. The stage, that needs a drop of mythical creature blood, is likely being prepared for her subordinate. Is that the case? Ma'am Hermit needs it. Klein asked thoughtfully, what is that drop of mythical creature blood for? The main ingredient of some potion. He connected it to the fact that a drop of divine blood from the eternal blazing sun could be used for the unshadowed potion's main ingredient. No, isn't it suicidal for other pathways to consume the blood of a fate pathway mythical creature? Will Ossipton said with a scoff. I heard that to advance from sequence 5 to sequence 4 for the mystery prior pathway, there's a need to completely analyze a drop of a mythical creature's blood, and from there, obtain complicated and massive amounts of knowledge. This is part of the ritual. As the mythical creature blood used is different, what they will be proficient at during the mysticologist stage will also differ. To think that's possible, the rituals of the different pathways and different sequences all have their unique traits. Klein bowed in enlightenment and said, Thank you for your answer. Will Ossipton waved his hand and said, Stop disturbing me. Letting me be born in peace is the greatest form of gratitude. Without waiting for Klein to answer, he added, Giving me that method doesn't count. With that said, the black pram retreated and entered the shadows before vanishing. Klein watched the surrounding walls collapse as he silently heaved a sigh of relief. He planned on escaping to sleep again. At this moment, he froze because he discovered a new power infiltrating his dream. Another one is coming just after one left. This is more lively than in the day. As Klein changed the dream according to his wishes, he pretended to look around in a daze.